Great, Nir. I'm so happy to have another conversation with you today.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
So I'll start with, something that I read in your book, specifically about the man and the jar of pills. If you can walk us through it, the pill, the ER, what happened, the moment that he learned, what's actually in the bottle.
Sure,
But
Mr.
but
A.
specifically, from my perspective, if a stranger, land in the ER with a belief, alone, what does that tell you about the beliefs that founders are carrying with them on a daily basis?
Ooh, okay, sure. So I'll start with the
So
story of
start
what happened.
with this, and let's try to connect it to, because I feel like it's super relevant for founders also.
Sure, yeah, okay. So the story of Mr. A, this is a real study. He's in the case literature. They anonymized his name, so we don't know what his actual name is. But Mr. A was in he was in a really bad place in his life, and he had a very bad breakup with his girlfriend, and he decides one day that he's going to end it all. He goes to his bathroom, he opens the medicine cabinet, and he takes out an entire jar of antidepressants, and he decides he's going to end his life. He's going to commit suicide. He takes every single pill in the pill bottle, and then as he's swallowing the last pill, he decides to change his mind. He decides he wants to live after all. So he rushes over to his neighbor's house. He bangs on their door and he says, "Please, please take me to the hospital." They rush him to the emergency room. And when he gets there, he collapses on the floor and he tells the doctors and the nurses, "I took all my pills. I took all my pills. Help me." They take him immediately. It's clear he's overdosed. When they check his blood pressure, it's dangerously low. His heart rate is falling and he's slipping in and out of consciousness. Now they're trying to figure out, what antidepressant did he take? What did he overdose on?
Hmm.
Except the pill bottle doesn't say the name of the medication. All it says is a phone number. They call the phone number and they determine that Mr. A was in a clinical trial. And he hadn't actually taken antidepressants because he was in the control group. So he had swallowed an entire bottle of placebos. And there
Hmm.
was no way that anything that he had taken had caused him to overdose. Now, they tell Mr. A this, and within 15 minutes, his blood
Wow.
pressure returns to normal, his heart rate stabilizes, and he walks out of the hospital completely fine, maybe a little embarrassed. Now, what does this tell us? What's the lesson here? The lesson here is that not only is there such a thing as a placebo, there's also what's called a nocebo. A nocebo is the opposite of placebo. Placebos come from the Greek "I will help." Nocebo is the opposite, "I will harm." And the reason I tell this story is because it's a demonstration of how our labels can become our limits. So when we
Hmm.
say to ourselves, "I am overdosing," as Mr. A did, his body exemplified what he expected to happen. Right? His physical symptoms were aligned with what he thought would happen when someone swallows a bottle of antidepressants. He started getting the falling heart rate, the low blood pressure, the fainting. All that was happening because he expected it to happen. Now, what does that mean for us, for entrepreneurs? If you expect certain things about your own performance, that is also going to become your limitation. So if you say to yourself, "I'm not good at sales," or "I don't know how to do presentations," or "I'm not ready for this," or "this is going to be hard," or whatever, your expectations about yourself will typically come true. That
Yeah.
if someone says, "I'm no good at in front of an audience, I don't know how to do public speaking, I'm not good at that," as if it's like an inborn trait, it's just a skill like any other, of course, you will avoid doing it, in which case you will be bad at doing it. So it's a
And
great example of how our labels can become our limits.
amazing. And is it something that I know that for yourself you did it quite a lot, but for, let's say, with founder that you met, did you see something that's changed, something that they used to do, and then after a few conversation with you, there was like, oh, that's kind of like the ball drop, and they changed
Yeah.
something.
Well, I'll tell you personally what I've done, and I've seen it happen with many entrepreneurs. So I used to, when I started writing, after I sold my last company, I started writing, and I was very excited that people were interested in my work and my first book that we talked about,
Yeah.
10 years ago, even more with
Yeah.
Hooked, and I I was very excited that people wanted to hear more about the book, and I started getting invitations to do public speaking. Except I used to have terrible stage fright, and
Hmm.
every time I was about to go on stage or do a podcast, I'd get the beating heartbeat, I'd get the sweaty armpits, I'd get the cotton mouth, and I'd get super nervous. I'd get very anxious. And I tell myself, I'm really not cut out for this. I'm not ready to present in front of this audience. If I was a real professional speaker, I wouldn't feel this way. And I would go down this anxiety spiral. And sometimes I have to tell you, Amir, Yuval, sorry, that sometimes, Yuval, I would have to, back off from speaking engagements and say, hey, I can't do it. I'm not ready for it because I was too scared. Well, even now, just speaking to you now, I have the same exact physiological symptoms. I still have the beating heartbeat and the sweaty armpits and the cotton mouth. Now what's changed is my belief. So the way
Hmm.
I got over my stage fright was to disconnect the physical symptoms with the psychological response. You see, pain and suffering are two separate things. Pain is signal. It's just information. Okay.
Yeah.
Anxiety, loneliness, fatigue, uncertainty, even physical pain. It's just information, just signal. Our interpretation of that signal defines whether it's suffering. So, for example, if right now we were speaking, Yuval, and all of a sudden you started getting short of breath and your heart rate started beating very quickly and your muscles started getting sore. If that happened to you right now, that'd be a big problem, right? We'd have to
Yeah.
take you to the hospital. Something would be seriously wrong. But if you were in the gym, that'd be
Yeah.
great. That means you're getting a
Hmm.
good workout. So what
Yeah.
changed? What changes is our concept of context. That
Yeah.
based on our belief, it changes our perception of reality. It changes our perception of ourselves. So now, every time I'm about to get on stage or have a podcast, I still feel the same physiological symptoms. I mean, even just talking to you right now, right? I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to be watching this. I still get the same symptoms. I still get the beating heart rate. I still get the cotton mouth. I still get the sweaty armpits. That hasn't changed. What changed is that now, every time I'm about to do a talk or go on a podcast, I have a different story, a new
Yeah.
belief, a liberating belief versus a limiting belief. What's the new
But you know
liberating?
about this belief, like probably you said
Wait, let
that
me just
once.
tell you what the
Okay.
belief is.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
The new liberating belief is that my heart is beating quickly so that I can send more blood to my brain so I can have more oxygen in my brain to deliver my best possible presentation. Okay.
Hmm.
Same physiological symptoms, completely different interpretation. Now, is it true? Do I know for a fact that's why my heart is beating quickly? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But here's the point, Yuval. This is the most important thing I can tell people. Beliefs are tools, not truths. Beliefs are tools, not truths. Beliefs are not facts. Facts are objective truths. You cannot change facts, but you can change beliefs. Because what is
Yeah.
a belief? A belief is a strongly held conviction open to revision based on new evidence.
Hmm.
So you don't make it up out of thin air, but it's a different story you're telling yourself because it's a better tool. It serves me better. Is it true that my heart is racing so I can get more oxygen to my brain? Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't care. I know that my old belief, my limiting belief that I'm not ready for this, I'm not good enough, this isn't going to work, that's also not true. I don't know if that's a fact. It's a prediction about what hasn't even happened yet.
But you
So
don't,
you're
after you tell this story to yourself for a few times, I feel like as humans, we are get, okay, I need something new. I need to keep this like updated. Like, do you keep, what I'm saying? This reframing, is it still something that will hold other people to continue that? Or after a while, they will say, you know what? It's another story, it's another belief. And then,
Well, if you've changed it from a limiting belief to a
yeah,
liberating belief, that's progress. That changes
yeah,
everything, right? Because
yeah.
now I don't back off from speaking engagements. I'm not scared. I don't get anxious. I still feel physiological symptoms, but it's no longer suffering.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And when you
Okay.
talk to very successful people, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists in every industry, what makes them special, you know what the secret is? The real secret is that they do things that other people would think is suffering. They
Hmm.
still feel the same pain. They still get nervous. They still feel anxious. They still get all the same emotions, the same physiological responses, but they don't interpret it as suffering. They
Hmm.
interpret it as struggle. This is what great
Hmm.
entrepreneurs do. They persist, they fight, they keep going where other people quit because other people think it's suffering. So as long as, to answer your question, Yuval, when you've adopted that new liberating belief, that's the life changer. You don't need anything else because now you don't have that cage over your brain. Like, for example, I've been diagnosed with ADHD. And when I first got diagnosed, it was a relief. It felt good. Okay. I'm not going to lie to you. It felt really empowering that finally I had a reason why I was always distracted, why
Yeah.
I'd always been struggling. But then something terrible began to happen. That every time I got distracted, every time I got off course, every time I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing, I started getting into this terrible loop. of, "Ugh, I have this chronic brain disease. It's always going to be with me. How am I going to meet my deadline? Is this always going to happen? What am I going to do if I don't meet my goals? Et cetera, et cetera." I start going down this vicious loop that didn't help me. It doesn't serve me to believe that there's nothing I can do about this. Did you know that about 30% of adults with ADHD overcome their symptoms? There's no blood test, there's no brain scan for ADHD. It's just
Hmm.
symptom. It's just symptoms. So why was I holding on to this stupid belief that there's nothing I could do? Of course there's something I could do. I let my label become my limit. And so I
Mm.
gave up. Whereas now I tell myself a very different story. I don't tell myself this is a chronic brain disease that there's nothing I can do about it. Instead, I tell myself I'm learning a new skill. I'm getting better.
I love
This
it.
is what it feels like to get better.
Yeah.
And that's the secret.
Yeah, amazing. So I think that we spoke a little bit about the first book, Hooked, but I just want to touch before we go deeper on your new book. Is last time we discussed and you taught me about the 10-minute rule that I love it. Maybe just like in one sentence you can share about that, but um, w- is like anything change since Indestructible in terms of the 10 minutes rule? Is it still relevant?
The 10-minute rule is basically just to inform everyone what this is about. The 10-minute rule says that you're not going to tell yourself not to do something. There's a psychological phenomenon called reactance. Okay. And, all people rebel when we are told what to do. So when your boss micromanages you, when your mom told you what to do as a kid, it feels bad and we rebel. Now, the crazy thing is that the brain will do it to itself.
Mm.
That if you tell yourself not to do something, don't check your phone, don't smoke that cigarette, don't take that drink, don't scroll social media, whatever it might be, you will rebel against yourself. How
Yeah,
stupid is that? But that's the way the
yeah.
brain works, right? And you probably felt it, right? And
Hmm.
so instead of saying no, you're going to say not yet.
Yeah,
That you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. You're just going to
not yet.
choose to wait a few minutes. Exactly, not yet. So you say, "Hey, I can wait 10 minutes to do just about anything. Check your phone, smoke the cigarette, drink, watch TV, whatever it is that you're trying to not do." You don't say no, you say not yet, and you set a timer for 10 minutes. Now, after the 10 minutes, you can do it. But what this proves to you is that you have control. You do have agency. And then, of course, the 10-minute rule becomes the 12-minute rule, becomes the
Mm.
15-minute rule, becomes the 20-minute rule. And you notice, actually, I'm not addicted. I can wait. This doesn't control me. I can control it. That's where you're proving to yourself exactly. This is why it ties in so nicely with beliefs. You're proving to yourself, you're giving yourself evidence of a new belief.
Mm. That you're able to do it, like you
Exactly.
just changing something in the flow, and you're able to see, okay, it's possible. Like
Yeah.
I could have worked 10 minutes without any distractions.
That's right. There's a wonderful book. I mean, we could like I see this myself with Indistractable and how one of the biggest barriers to getting people to change their habits around technology is getting them to stop thinking they're addicted to technology. You're not addicted to technology. You're distracted by technology. The word addiction comes from addictio, comes from slave in Latin. You're not
Yeah,
a slave to technology. You might feel like you are sometimes, but you're not actually addicted. Not the way that, we're not injecting Instagram. We're not snorting Facebook here. Come on. You're not actually addicted. So a great book that I was going to mention earlier, Alan Carr wrote a book about smoking. And the book, basically, the summary of the book, and this is smoking, right? People say, "Oh my God, nicotine is so addictive. There's no way you can stop smoking. It's so difficult. You become chemically addicted." Turns out that most of the addiction is psychological. It's like, yes, there are withdrawal symptoms. Absolutely. There are cravings. But really, it's our hyperfixation on those physiological responses. It's a craving like any other, right? And so, what Alan Carr advises, and this is one of the most successful smoking cessation
hmm,
techniques in history, he just basically tells you on page one, you're not addicted. Okay? It's a lie. Stop
yeah,
believing you're addicted, because if you believe you're addicted, I have to smoke, I have to smoke, I have to smoke. Here's what happens. You tell yourself, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. Okay, fine, I can smoke. That's actually what you're addicted to. You're addicted to the relief of telling yourself, okay, fine, I can do it. It's same with our phones, same with any distraction. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Okay, fine. That feels good.
yeah,
That's the relief. But
yeah,
if you don't believe that it's actually this thing that's addicting you, turns out it's very effective. And if you're saying, "Oh, no, I don't believe this guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never been addicted to cigarettes. He doesn't have a clue." Okay, let's say I'm wrong. Okay. Believing it, however, even if it's wrong, beliefs are tools, not truths. That you
yeah,
are better off believing that you're not addicted than believing you are.
Mm-hmm.
right? If you believe there's nothing you can do, that you're a slave, that your mind has been hijacked, if you believe that's true, guess what? It is. It
Yeah.
is because you won't even try to quit. Whereas if
Mm-hmm.
you believe, wait a minute, maybe I do have control. How do I know I don't have control? Maybe I'm not addicted. If you believe, if you open up that possibility that maybe, just maybe, it's not a fact, it's a belief, you will try. And if you try and you persist, you may succeed.
Yeah. And I think that it's exactly what you mentioned about, beliefs and taking that to founders. And you probably will see founders, entrepreneurs, some are super successful, as you mentioned, that they believe that, they will solve the problem. It doesn't matter how challenging it is. And then especially now with AI and agents and so many things changing, I think that belief become such an important piece for a founder. And my question is about what is the most common limiting belief that you see, or from your research in founder, that almost never holds up.
Yeah. Oh, that's an easy one. The most common limiting belief I hear, there's no time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no time. I'm too busy. Is that a fact? Is that a law of nature? Is that one of Newton's laws? No, it's not a physical law of nature. It's in your head. It's all in your head. You define what is
Yeah.
worth being in your time. You have 24 hours in a day just like everybody else, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what is this constraint? It's completely made up. So maybe you don't have time to do the things that aren't important to you, but you have time. You have time to do anything you want. Maybe you just don't have you just might have different priorities right now. So that's probably the most limiting belief I hear is, I really, that's my dream, that's my wish. I wish I could spend more time with my family. I wish I could exercise. I wish I could work on my business. I wish I could write that book, but I don't have time. Chances are you do have time. You're just putzing it away on social media or the news or gossip or sports. And so you've prioritized one thing or another. Now, I'm not
But
saying that
how
those
how
things
is it
are
with
bad.
like goal settings? Because also you will say, okay, I will put a goal for me to write a book. I will put another goal to exercise 3 times a week. How do you take the goals and the beliefs, right? How do you connect the two?
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is not that we don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all know what to do. And we have this, I think the problem is that we have this false notion that in order to meet our goals, we have to stay motivated. And that's for sure true, right? Motivation is very clear in achieving our goals.
Yeah.
But what's the number one determinant of whether we meet our goals? The number one determinant. It's not being more intelligent. That's nice, but that's not the number one determinant according to studies. It's not having the right resources. Many people who start with nothing go on to achieve amazing things, and many people who have every opportunity accomplish very little. It's not information. For sure. I mean, we're drowning in information. If you
Yeah.
don't know something, just Google it, ask ChatGPT, right? Like read a book. They're all
Too
the
much
information.
information. Yeah.
There's no secrets anymore. If anybody has any kind of useful information, they put it out on social media, they write a book about it, they blog
Yeah.
post about it. Information's all out there. Nobody can say, I don't know.
Yeah.
So why is it that if even when we know what to do, that's the behavior, and we want the benefit, right? That's how
Mm-hmm.
classic economics tells us that motivation works. If we know what to do, the behavior, and we want the benefit, we will do the behavior to get the benefit, right? That's classic economic incentives. But there's something missing. That if it was that simple, if all it took was knowing what to do, the behavior, and wanting the benefit, well, then we would all be multimillionaires and have six-pack abs because the information's out there. We can
Yeah.
do it. We
Yeah.
just don't. So we can set great goals, but why don't we do what it takes to achieve them? Well, it's because motivation is not a straight line, that
Yeah.
motivation is a triangle, that in
Mm-hmm.
order to sustain motivation, we not only need to know the behavior, we also need to know the benefit, but most importantly, we have to have the belief. That
Mm-hmm.
belief is what holds the motivation triangle together. So, for example, if I have goals from my company leader. Let's say I have a boss that
Yeah.
sets very clear goals. Okay. They
Yeah.
set smart goals, specific,
Mm-hmm.
measurable, whatever. But I don't believe in that leader. Maybe I don't believe that they're very good. Maybe I don't believe in their vision. Maybe I don't believe they have my best interest at heart, that they're going to give me that promotion or that raise, or they're going to help me with my career. If I don't believe in that leader,
Yeah. So it,
if I don't believe I'm going to get that benefit, I'm not going to stay motivated to work for them. Conversely, if I don't believe in my ability to do the behavior, I can know I have to make my sales calls, but if I don't think I'm very good at this, or I can't present properly, or nobody listens to me, or whatever the case might be, if I don't believe in my own behavior, or my ability to do the behavior, I should say, I'm also not going to persist. So you have to have all three at the same time, the behavior, the benefit, and most importantly, the belief. That's
I
what
believe.
holds long-term
Yeah.
persistence together.
Amazing. I think that the other thing that I read and I really like, it's about the luck and the ability to, expand the luck surface, as you called it. So it's not an attention. Sorry, so luck is attention and not fortunate. And you gave the example of this research that people find on page two. This ad after 11 seconds, and the one that considers themselves as unlucky, it took them 2.5 minutes. And I think that the end is like more of a practical thing. What is like the two things that I can do tomorrow to expand my luck surface area, especially now that I
Yeah.
feel like we need this luck.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if people followed the explanation you gave. Maybe I'll just back
Yeah,
up
yeah,
a
no,
second to
you,
demonstrate.
you are the
What
master. I need to learn from you. Yeah.
No problem, no problem. So in this study, I think it's a great demonstration of how our beliefs have very practical implications in terms of what opportunities we are literally able to see. Okay, not
Mm-hmm.
figuratively, not metaphorically, but actually what your eyeballs will see. You see, people do not see reality. None of us see reality. We see a simulation of reality filtered through our beliefs. And this is the study that proved it, that they took two groups of people and they told them, please do this very simple task. We want you to look through this newspaper and just count the number of images. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many images do you see in this newspaper? Now, these two groups, one group were people who believed they were lucky people. Okay. Not a fact, just a belief. They didn't follow them around to see if they were lucky. They just believed these people said that they were lucky. The other group were people who believed they were unlucky. Again, not a fact. They just believed that they were self described unlucky people.
Yeah.
As you said, people who were unlucky to do this very simple task took 2.5 minutes. People who believed they were lucky took just 11 seconds. Now, why the difference? Because on page 2 of this newspaper, one of those images, one of those pictures said, there are 43 images in this newspaper. Please collect your reward. The lucky people saw the image, read what it said, got up from the table, collected their reward, and left the room. It took them 11 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Unlucky people sat there like dum-dums and counted all the images. Now, what's important here is that they counted correctly. They counted 43 images, meaning they saw the image that said there are 43 images in this paper. But because they believed that they were unlucky, they filtered out the information that was right in front of their face.
It cannot be too easy. Like I'm not lucky to
Too
find a
easy.
solution like in the second page.
Exactly. And what does every entrepreneur do? What makes an entrepreneur is that they see things the rest of us can't see. They see $100 bills all over the place, and we see concrete and metal, right? We don't see what they can see. It's called entrepreneurial alertness. There's a psychological term for this. They literally see reality and they don't understand why the rest of us dum-dums don't see what they see. Don't you guys understand there's money to be made here? And the rest of us, we're twiddling our thumbs asking for a paycheck. It is literally an ability to see things differently
But
based on what
how will you, let's say it's a scale. Can you improve that? How can you be more aware of this, luck that is around you?
Yeah, there's a few things you can do. So one thing you can do is to ask the opposite question. It's called a
Yeah.
turnaround. So when everybody else says how, the world is terrible and AI is going to take all our jobs and the competition is going to destroy us and this isn't going to work and that isn't going to work, asking yourself the opposite question. Could the opposite be true? And choosing to notice how could the opposite be true. Now, it doesn't mean it is true. It hasn't happened yet, especially with these perceptions of the future. So when someone says, I'm an unlucky person, they are making a statement about what will happen to them in the future. And by the
Mm.
way, we talked about this earlier with labels are your limits. When I believe that I am unlucky, you saw the disastrous consequences it has in our day-to-day lives. The most dangerous words in the English language are whatever comes after I am. I am unlucky. I am suffering from ADHD. I am not good at this or that or the other. I am too young, too old, too whatever. Be very, very careful. So one tip is to be very careful about your labels. Your labels can be very empowering if we have the right labels, like I am lucky versus I'm
Yeah.
unlucky. But to be very, very careful about those labels. And then two, look for could the exact opposite be true? especially when it comes to predictions of the future. So I'll tell you right now,
So, for
I don't know what
example, well, a founder will probably a more successful founder will not, they get so many no's, right? And no, it's not good. It will not
yeah,
work. Your go to market is not good. So he would try to think, what if we can do this? Like, what can be like
right.
otherwise, right? This is
The, the
what you mean?
The most practical thing I can tell you is to realize that you don't see reality clearly. We need to
Hmm.
have the intellectual humility to realize that none of us sees reality clearly. Why? Because your brain is currently absorbing 11 million bits of information. 11 million bits of information is like reading War and Peace every second twice. Okay, it's a 2,000 pages of information every single second. The light entering your eyeballs, the sound of my voice in your ears, the ambient temperature of the room, your brain is processing all that information. Okay. But your conscious awareness, what you call reality, is only 50 bits of information. That's one sentence per second. So one
Hmm.
sentence versus 2,000 pages per second. So you don't see reality clearly. None of us can. We see
Yeah.
a simulation of reality filtered through our beliefs. So the most practical thing I can tell you is to have the intellectual humility to know that you're living in a dream. You're living in an illusion. It's a simulation of reality. You don't see reality as it is. And when you admit that fact, that you
Hmm.
don't see reality clearly, you can solve so many of our problems. Think about it. Interpersonal problems. Why do we fight with each other? Because we see things from different beliefs, right? If
Yeah.
I don't see my reality clearly, how can I possibly see somebody else's reality clearly? I don't see my own reality clearly.
Yeah.
Right? So they're seeing a simulation that I'm not privy to. I can't see through their eyes. So this is why we fight. Why nations fight, why people fight. It's all because we have different versions of reality. So having that intellectual humility to understand that you're wrong about everything. Like you literally cannot see reality clearly. It's impossible. None of us can. So having that understanding and then choosing saying, look, if my brain is already lying to me, how do I pick the right lie? I mean, look at the
Hmm.
word belief. What do you see? How do you spell belief?
Li.
Belie. Lie is in the middle of the word.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's coincidence, but I think it's amazing because your brain is constantly telling you lies all the time. You don't see reality clearly.
And
And
you
so
just need
what
to
you're
be
doing,
aware of that and understand that
that's
there
the
is,
most important.
so many signals, so many things, and you
Right.
choose what to believe, what not, and hopefully choose whatever that can move you forward and get you to progress.
Right. So the three things you need to know. Number one, you don't see reality clearly. Number two, you are capable of far more than you can imagine. And
Yeah,
three, your reality is based on what you believe. Not objective reality, not everybody's reality, but your reality is determined based on your beliefs.
amazing. Another thing that you discuss is praying, right? You're, a secular person, and
Yeah.
I think that I really thought that it's interesting, and I was thinking about like founders again. With all
Yeah.
what's happening, with so many no's, with AI that is getting more efficient, and agents, maybe they need to pray, right?
Well, I mean, I think there's two things. We can take it in terms of how do you pray and why do I pray now, even though I don't believe in the supernatural. And we could talk about where that came from. But I think from a company perspective, what is
Because I think
company
that,
culture?
sorry, Nir, I think that if the employees in the company will know that, oh, my CEO is praying, they can be a bit nervous.
I
But
think
that just a
successful
joke,
CEOs.
just a joke. Yeah,
No, I think successful CEOs are praying every day. You just don't recognize it.
yeah.
So at Amazon, I don't know at Google, but at Amazon, they have these company values, and everybody knows them. And one of
Hmm.
those company values, if you talk to an Amazonian, they all know them. They bring them up in meetings. They put them in
Yeah, yeah,
emails. They're constantly. And one of these values is it's always day one. And they say this all the time. Like when somebody makes a decision that is not aligned with that, right? They're spending too much money on something. They're acting like a big fat company.
yeah,
They will
yeah.
say, "Hey, it's always day one." Okay? Think about that for a minute. It is objectively not true that it is day one. That
Hmm.
is as much of a lie as you could possibly come up with.
Yeah.
It is objectively false that it is day one. It is not day one. It's
We
a
are working
three
on this for the
trillion.
last 360
Yeah,
days.
it's
Yeah,
it's a $3 trillion company.
yeah,
It's definitely not day one anymore at Amazon.
yeah.
And yet they believe this thing that is objectively not true. And they say it again and again like a prayer, right?
Okay.
When people pray, whether you believe in the supernatural or not, do they really know for a fact that this is exactly what is in the Torah or the Bible or the Quran? Is it literally true? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. At least for me, it doesn't matter. What's
So
benefited
what did
me?
you do? What did you do, since the research that you did in terms of prayers?
Yeah,
Did you add something to your life? I know that you're all about, different things about, mindfulness and meditations
sure.
and different things. What did you do
Yeah. So just to wrap
differently?
up the point about the
Yeah,
company culture, I think this is very, very important to have these critical values, these mantras, these prayers, if you will, inside the corporation, just like Amazon does,
I
that
love it.
this is what we stand for. This is what we believe, whether or not it's true. Okay. Because beliefs are tools, not truths. It's always
Yeah,
day one in Amazon. That's not true, but it's useful. And
yeah.
so we're going to
That
believe it.
this is great.
Personally, yeah, so personally what I did, I didn't pray since I was 6 years old. My parents, when they first came to America, they were scammed out of every dollar they had. Some American saw that there was a new immigrant that didn't speak English very well, and he basically took everything they had in the scam. And they were very close to losing everything and having to go back home. But they figured it out. We luckily stayed in America, and things were fine. But I remember going out on my driveway in the morning and looking up at the sky and talking to this voice in my head. And I called that voice God. I remember it being very comforting. Then when I grew up, I abandoned it. It didn't make sense to me. How could I be sure? Was it a fact that it was God? Maybe I was just talking to myself. And if I was just talking to myself, what was the point if no one was listening?
Hmm.
And then as I did this research about beliefs, of course, prayer came up many times. And it turns out that the psychology literature shows that prayer has amazing psychological benefits, that people who pray live longer, they live healthier, they have more friends, they contribute more to their community, they make more money. All these good things happen to people who pray. Now, I thought, well, that's just good
No
for them.
brainer.
That's not something. Yeah, well, to me, I thought, well, that was not accessible because I didn't have a faith. I didn't believe
Mm.
in the supernatural. So how could I possibly pray? And then I found a study that showed that prayer works even without faith. And it
Okay.
blew my mind. So they took three groups of people and they had one group, people who already prayed. So they were Christian or Buddhist
Yeah.
or Jewish. They had some kind of prayer practice
Hmm.
from faith. A second group were people who didn't pray at all and they didn't ask them to pray. A third group, they taught how to pray. And they were people who were secular, who didn't have a belief in the supernatural. And they told them, look, instead of saying God, just say whatever's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Okay, the universe, Mother Nature, sum of all
Yeah.
forces, whatever you want to say that's meaningful to you. And it turns out that people who prayed with or without faith, just the act of prayer, increased their pain tolerance. So it was measurably an improvement in their pain tolerance because they prayed. So in my life, you ask, okay, what changed in my life? I went to 5 religious leaders and I asked them all the same question. It sounds like a setup for a joke, but this is
Yeah.
actually what happened. Totally true. I went to a rabbi, an imam, a swami, a monk, and a priest all walk into a bar, right? It sounds like a joke, but
To a
this is really
bar
what
on
happened.
an airplane.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I went to all 5 of them and I asked them, can I pray even if I have doubts about God? And I thought they would kick me out.
Yeah.
And they call me a heretic. And none of them said that. And in fact, most of them told me that doubt is welcome, that doubt is part of the process, that you don't need perfect faith. And what that told me was that in order to get these psychological benefits, you just have to do. That one of the things the rabbi told me that I thought was very interesting. He says, first of all, I thought, I was going to offend him by asking him this question. And he says to me, it was amazing. It was like Seinfeld or something. He's like, so there's this omnipotent, omniscient, all-knowing being that knows everything at all times and governs everything in the universe. And you don't have any questions? You don't have any doubts about that? Sure. So I love that. And he tells me about how, in Exodus, when the Jews are on Mount Sinai, and God gives them the 10 commandments. They say, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear, which is
Hmm.
actually totally backwards, right? If I'm trying to convince you of something,
You want to
right? We've been
hear and
talking
then
now for 40 minutes. You're asking me questions because you want to understand.
yeah,
So first you have to hear. Then if I convince you, then you'll do.
yeah,
But that's not what the Israelites say to God. They say, we will do and then we will hear. It's backwards. And he
yeah,
says that's the point, that you don't have to have perfect faith. You don't have to have belief that everything in the holy text is exactly as it is written is true, which was my block. I thought, well, if I can't agree with everything, I don't want to do anything with it, right? If it's not, it's all or nothing with me. And now I've changed my mind. Who
yeah.
says? There's no monopoly on religion. So I can pray or talk to something greater than myself, whether or not I have perfect certainty about the supernatural. I do it because it makes me a better person. It helps me
And
serve others.
yeah, no, that sound like definitely something that I'm coming from a traditional house and been to synagogues, and I feel like there is, it's something special. It's also the community, but it's also something that can be relevant for all of us. One of the things that you discussed, and in terms of like longevity and
Mm.
ice bath and exercise and sleep, and I'm measuring everything with my Whoop. And then
Yeah.
I read your this episode of Becca Levy research that people with positive views on aging live 7.5 years longer, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a great hack.
It's
Did
amazing.
you manage to so first would be glad to hear more, and did you manage to really do these things instead of like running exercise and do many other biohacking things?
Well, okay, so this is very, very important because it shows how beliefs literally become your biology.
Mm-hmm.
That people who have positive views of aging, live on average 7.5 years longer. Now, to put that in perspective, this is off the charts. This is more than the effect of exercise. It's more than the effect of diet. It's more than the effect of stopping smoking. It has a huge impact. We've never seen anything like it in terms of increasing longevity simply by having positive views of aging. Now, what does this sound
What
like?
does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah. A positive view of aging is saying something to yourself like, growth is possible at any age. So I
Mm,
can get better at any age. The opposite is something we hear all the time,
I'm
right?
too
I'm
old.
too old for this, right? I'm
Yeah.
having a senior moment.
Yeah.
Something that is essentially what they boiled down in the study was aging involves inevitable decline. Okay.
Yeah.
Aging involves inevitable decline versus growth is possible at any age. Now,
I love it.
both are true. Okay. Both are true to some degree.
Yeah.
But based on what you think of first, whatever comes to mind when you think of aging, what comes to mind? Growth is possible at any age, or aging involves inevitable decline? Based
Hmm.
on what your reaction is, what your first
Yeah.
belief is, that's what determined whether you live 7.5 years longer. Now, why? Why does that happen? It's not because your beliefs are vibrating your mitochondria at some kind of quantum level. That has nothing to do with it. It's not that the beliefs are directly becoming your biology. It's that beliefs change biology, which is true, via behavior.
Hmm.
Remember the motivation triangle? The
Yeah.
behavior, the benefit, the belief?
And live. Yeah.
Turns out that people who have positive views of aging are the ones who are much more likely to do things that make them live longer. So if I
Mm.
believe growth is possible at any age, how likely am I to learn a new language or go out in the garden and get some exercise or see my friends or
Mm.
volunteer in my community? All things that increase lifespan.
So it's the
So
belief that's changing my behavior to actually do things that will,
exactly,
get me to
exactly.
live longer.
Because if you
We,
don't believe, if you just believe, well, growth, that aging involves inevitable decline, you sit in front of the TV and you see bad news all day. That's what you do. And of course, that makes you die sooner. Whereas if you believe, no, I can get better because I can do things, that's exactly what you'll do.
so two more last questions. So
Yeah.
the one before the last is one belief a founder could try changing this week. Something small, it doesn't need to be life defining, but where would you start tomorrow?
I would ask yourself, where are you stuck? Okay. Where
Hmm.
are you stuck? I'm not good at sales. I'm not. I don't know how to pitch. This won't work. Whatever, wherever you feel you're stuck,
Yeah.
and write down the reason you're stuck. Okay, it could be in your personal life. It can be in your business. It could be whatever. Where are you stuck? What is that belief? Right? What's the reason? The excuse. Then the best thing you can do is to do a turnaround. The turnaround involves asking yourself, could the exact opposite be true? How could the
Mm.
exact opposite be true? Now, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to change your mind because you have to know your brain hates changing its mind. Your brain hates changing its mind. Your brain is constantly pulling you back into passivity. That's what your brain was evolved to do. It's constantly trying to keep you safe, and whatever kept you alive yesterday might keep you alive. Is more likely to keep you alive tomorrow. So the best thing you can do, the best advice I can give you is wherever you're stuck, ask yourself, could the opposite be true? How could that be the case? And you'll find that almost always there is an alternative belief that will serve you better.
So let's say I'm not good in public speaking.
Yeah.
So So the opposite will be I'm amazing in public speaking, and then
No, not
I
no, no,
will ask,
no, no. It's that I'm not good at public speaking.
okay,
Okay? So saying I'm good at public speaking when I'm not good at public speaking is bullshit, right? You're just not if you haven't practiced it, well, then it's a skill like any other. It's saying like,
okay,
I'm no good at Japanese. That's true. I'm not good at Japanese yet.
yeah,
Yet.
hmm,
Yet. Yet is the important word here, right? It's
okay,
not that I am not good because my genes make me not good at it. That's not true. That's a belief. It's in fact false. It's that I haven't worked on it yet, right? So, for example, how could it be true that I'm not good at public speaking yet? Well, it's because I
hmm,
haven't practiced enough, because I haven't tried it. Or was there ever a case when I was good at public speaking? Have I ever, like when I tell a joke with my buddies around a campfire or something, am I good at public speaking with people I'm comfortable with? So how could that be true? So even what you said, now that I think about it, I am good at public speaking. When was I ever good at public speaking? Well, it was when I knew a story. Like maybe I told a joke to my friends that everybody laughed at. Oh, okay. That was kind of public speaking. I am good at public speaking, actually, when I practice enough to deliver a funny joke, for example. So
hmm,
that might be a case where you're collecting evidence that informs the changing of the belief.
yeah, and I also like the yet, right? So it's like
Yeah.
uh, it's something that connected, like 10 minutes, right? Wait for them, not yet, and now it's the other yet, but it's really great tools. So quick, rapid fire one. Are you ready?
Ready.
Six, seven, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Belief. I will
Are
say one
tools, not
word.
truths. Yes.
Sorry.
Beliefs are tools, not truths.
iPad time.
iPad time. That's what my daughter used to say.
I know. I know. Luck.
It is not chance.
Agents.
Agency or agents?
Agents. No agency. No agency. Agents. AI agents.
Agent. AI agents. Opportunity.
Enough.
Enough is what you make it.
Prayer.
Is possible without faith.
And Julie.
Love of my life.
Thank you, Mr. Nir Eyal. It's such a pleasure, and really so many amazing things that you shared with us. And I'll try to, start with the last thing that you shared. But I feel like there is so many things: longevity, the prayer, thinking from from the contrast of what we believe, and really starting small. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for all the information, and I'll put also a link to the book, and I think that I'm probably you think about the fourth book, right?
At some point, yeah, yeah, that's true. If you have any ideas, let me know.
I
If you
will.
have any
Thank
questions
you.
that came out of this, I'd be happy to write more.
Amazing. Thank you, Nir.
My pleasure. Good to see you, Bo. Take care.